knew for Batman that I didn't want to touch his character design too much because in my eyes he's already perfect, but I knew for the sake of this video I did have to come up with a different design for him. So I ended up taking inspiration from the Batman animated series, kept the same color palette that he already had, but added a little bit of the Terry McGinnis suit into this design, which is why the bat symbol is red. There isn't much to talk about for this suit because of how simple it is. I didn't want to give him much armor because he didn't have much armor on his original design, and I also didn't want him to look like some sort of mech suit, so he stayed pretty slimmed down and similar to his original design. For Superman, I had a lot of inspiration from Krypton. I wanted him to sort of feel more inspired by his heritage. I got rid of the capes that pretty much all of these characters have. None of them really have capes anymore. I know the significance of Superman's cape is it's supposed to be from Krypton in some of the stories. And so instead of that, I took inspiration from the Superman animated series with the red and the black. But I didn't really like the black. It didn't really feel much like a symbol of hope. So that ended up turning white later. And instead of giving him the cape, we turned it into these sort of like red sleeves that you see. I wanted him to look more sort of like a knight in shining armor, I guess, because that is technically what he is. I hate the boots that I ended up going with for this character design, or at least the light version of this character design. They feel really out of place because of how dark they are, but I really didn't have any other ideas at that time, so if I was to go back and change anything about this redesign, I would definitely come up with something different for the boots, and I probably would go ahead and change the color of the symbol of hope on his chest. His design and Supergirl's design I ended up keeping very similar because they both are Kryptonian and they're cousins, but they do both have their differences to differentiate them as heroes. I ended up going back to the black design at some point and just giving him sort of like, I call it like a stealth mode, but all around I prefer the white version of this redesign better. For Wonder Woman, I ended up redesigning her originally, and you can find that video on my channel, but I really didn't like that design the more I looked at it, so I went ahead and redesigned her again specifically for this video. And I started off with this sort of swapped colors, sort of skirt and turtleneck. Not a fan of it even while I was doing it. I don't really know what I was thinking when creating this. It feels very like it would have been worn by sort of like Linda Carter's Wonder Woman, but even then that's very questionable because I think Linda Carter had taste. I wanted to give her like the essence of a cape, which is why she has whatever those things were sort of flowing behind her in the mystery wind, but I ended up going with a second design that I came up with probably weeks later, just out of the blue because I really didn't have any ideas for her at all. Tried again to give her sort of like, at this point it's almost like a loincloth, which is even weirder than like the half sort of cape thing that she had originally when I tried to give her the redesign the first time. I'm not really sure what I was going for. I was just trying to make her look, I don't know, Amazonian. It wasn't really working. In my original redesign, she did have a chest piece, which I think is smart. I mean, she doesn't really have much covering her originally. I don't understand why female superheroes are treated almost more indestructibly than male superheroes, because none of the female superheroes are ever given clothes, which is a choice. Instead of the loincloth, they ended up just wrapping her lasso around her. I was always going to give her the lasso, I just wasn't sure if I wanted to keep sort of the loincloth thing or not. Then I realized while making the boots that I hadn't given her like the W's, so I put those on the boots instead. Not sure how I feel about the white boots, but I really didn't have really any other color that I preferred with her. At this point, she kind of felt very Captain America because of the star on her arm. I wanted her to have her hair back because long hair is kind of the same thing as capes. It's easy to grab and be sort of like dragged around with. But I ended up just giving her a half up, half down because I figured that would suit her better. Got rid of the star on her arm, which I think is better, and put her in the lineup. If I had to choose a favorite redesign that I've done, it is definitely the Martian Manhunter. I took a lot of inspiration from sort of futuristic spacesuits designs. That's a weird way to say that word. But I just knew for certain that I wanted him to have more coverage. I know that probably a lot of the suits were designed very simply because, you know, they have to be replicated over and over again for the sake of animation and even comic books. But to just put him in underwear felt really weird, honestly. So I went for a more full coverage look. I went for more armor because despite him being able to like phase through things, he still gets hit. I wanted it to look sort of like, almost like battle armor. I wanted it to look beat up. I don't think he would necessarily wear this to the war on Mars, but I wanted it to look like maybe he could if he wanted to. I stuck with the original palette of blue and red and kept the cross over his chest because that is his like signature sort of piece, I believe. I got rid of the Dracula cape, obviously, which is such a weird design choice to begin with. Almost as weird as putting him in just straight underwear. I went with a lot of buckles, I went with a lot of like body pads, a lot of these like gold metal sort of looking pieces. I'm not really sure what their purpose is, but I mean they stand out, they help sort of give like a direction in which you're supposed to be looking, kind of. I really, really like the color palette for just this entire design. I think it was done really well. I think the design looks really cool, just in and of itself. I had a really like specific idea when going into this one, compared to a few other of the redesigns that I've done where I truly had like no ideas, but I just started drawing. I think this design is where I started putting in a lot more details into my redesigns. You can't really see it right now, but I put in a lot of dents and scrapes and scratches on the armor. I really wanted him to feel like battle ready. I wanted him to feel sort of like, not stone cold, but just a hard exterior, I guess. And he looks really good in the lineup with everyone else. If you had to make me choose what my least favorite redesign is, it is definitely this one. I kind of understand that the Lantern Corps is sort of like the army. Everyone is supposed to be dressed the same because everyone is the same. But I wanted his redesign to sort of capture who he was, and I do believe in this series he was in the military, and I wanted his suit to reflect that, to reflect who he is on Earth. even if I have my lore mixed up and he isn't in the military, we can still pretend that, you know, the Lantern Corps is like the American military. This is by far my least favorite redesign, simply because this is one of the ones where I truly had no ideas, and I honestly don't know what I was thinking, but it looks so ugly. Like, it just looks so ugly. I don't know what I could have done to fix it. I don't really know what other ideas I had, but this was a bad one. So, 2 out of 10. This is another of my all-time favorite redesigns. If I had to give you like a tier list, it would be Martian Manhunter, this redesign of The Flash, probably Supergirl's redesign. I really am proud of Zatanna's redesign as well, but I know now, currently, as the person who I am today, that this Flash from Justice League Unlimited is supposed to be Wally West and not Barry Allen. But of the time of drawing this, probably 2 years ago at this point, I had no idea. I truly had no idea. So this redesign is of Barry Allen and not Wally West. So, sorry. I really liked doing sort of like this racer-inspired suit for him because I honestly loved drawing all the little patches. It's a lot of hidden Easter eggs that I really liked putting on this suit. And while I'm not sure if they're actually on Earth 22, we have an Earth 22 patch. We have a bunch of patches from Wayne Enterprises, Wayne Corporation, and Wayne Tech, because I feel like Batman would be one of his sponsors, helping him create like new suits and new technology and stuff. We have a patch from Star Labs, a patch that's like Speed Demon, a patch that's a pizza because of his high metabolism, and then obviously we had to put Lightning McQueen's ka-chow. I just found drawing all these little patches on his suit really fun. I ended up giving him a dark mode as well, simply because I found out that, hey, I could turn the entire suit purple, and ended up giving him a dark mode simply because of that. But he ended up getting steel-toed boots because while he's really fast, he tends to trip a lot, which is weird to me. Shouldn't you be going fast enough that you, like, don't? But I figured that he wouldn't want to break a toe, so I gave him steel-toed boots. And I just gave him a mask that goes over his eyes, so his hair's out, and while it's not really aerodynamic, it at least looks cool. I think it looks cool. And he's really short in the lineup, but it's my bad. Now, I didn't think Captain Marvel was in Justice League Unlimited from, 2001? But when looking up the PNGs of the characters that I used for the side-by-sides, he popped up, and so I was like, alright, bet. While I'm still not sure if he actually showed up in Justice League Unlimited, I decided to redesign him anyway because Captain Marvel, also known as Shazam, is one of probably my all-time favorite characters. I love the Shazam movie with Zachary Levi when it came out in 2019. I actually have it on DVD because it's one of my favorites. I ended up starting out with one design that was sort of just like a sweatshirt and like jeans, but I felt that because Shazam gets his powers from the Greek gods specifically, that I needed to go more Greek god fashion. I ended up giving him this like full white bodysuit, but then I also wanted to add a little bit of Billy Batson back into the character, so that's when I gave him the red hoodie on top. White and gold to me always screams Greek. I don't know if it's because I watched Disney's Hercules, but white and gold is always my go-to with characters like this. Ended up giving him, just the Converse for his shoes because wanted to keep like the youthfulness and keep his humanity. And I just felt like if Gwen from Into the Spider-Verse can do the shoes on Super Suit, surely Shazam can do it too. And honestly, I redesigned his face a little bit because he felt too old, he felt too scowly, he felt too Batman. So I gave him more soft features to give him back his youth. And he's flying above everyone else in the lineup, so. Hawkgirl is another one of my favorite redesigns. I went more like warrior Roman sort of with her. I don't understand how most of these women keep their tops up because they don't have straps. And while I know she's technically from another planet, I wanted to give her armor because I feel like it's sort of leaning into her weapon of choice, which I'm pretty sure that's a Morning Star. I wanted her to look like a warrior. I wanted her to feel like she could fit into the past because I watched Black Adam, and that was a movie sort of set in the past and the present, and I felt like Hawkman in that movie felt more from the past than he did from our time, and I wanted her to reflect that as well, sort of that vibe that I got when watching Black Adam. I also just wanted her to feel like a warrior. I wanted her to feel stronger. This colorful costume really was honestly giving me like sidekick to Batman. It was giving me Robin color palette, and I wanted her to feel more like she could be taken seriously, so I gave her more of a stronger looking suit and color palette. Green Arrow's original costume is an absolute abomination to the world of fashion. I don't understand at all what the practical purpose of it is. Don't understand why someone with so much money would practically and actively choose to dress like that, but he did. So I decided to scrap the entire thing and go more of like a Robin Hood, I guess. I was very proud of my belt buckle, which you just watched me design. I'm surprised that they didn't do that on the original design. Make it a G, an arrow. I thought I was being so clever. Green Arrow and Batman are sort of like the same person, kind of. So I wanted to give them like an obvious difference and make Green Arrow look more, I don't know, poor. I ended up going the complete opposite with Black Canary, who I wanted to feel more high-tech, and she typically fights hand-to-hand combat, so I gave her a lot of body armor to sort of like support her and keep her protected while she's fighting. I don't understand why they put these women in like leotards, but here we are. Kept her very full coverage, put on lots of body pads. And then I designed sort of this amplifier for her canary. Is it a canary call? Is it the canary scream? I don't remember what they call it. But it's to amplify but also sort of centralize her scream. That way she can use it like simply against one person, which I'm not sure why they haven't done that at all, because I've witnessed a couple like episodes in different shows where she uses her scream and ends up taking out members of the Justice League accidentally as well. Like, wouldn't you figure out a way to like not do that? But I'm not supposed to be asking questions, I guess. Got rid of the heels for the most part. I gave her wedges instead because I couldn't get rid of them completely. I didn't want to try to struggle with the mental effort it would take to give her flat feet, so she has like a 1-inch wedge instead. Aquaman is absolutely my longest redesign. His redesign took days off my life because I took a lot of inspiration from Disney's Atlantis, but I also wanted to take a lot of inspiration from like Polynesia and Hawaiian Islands, their culture and their typical dress. In his trident right here, you can't see it right now, but I ended up putting in like the heart of the sea from the Titanic because I wanted that to be a little Easter egg for people who cared. I think I ended up taking it out in the end because it just wasn't really fitting the vibe, and so instead of the heart of the sea, it's just a blue stone. But for his suit, I ended up drawing a bunch of like patterns, very fishy, very like inspired patterns on the entire suit. And that's why it took so long. That's why it took absolute years off my life, was because I was just sitting for hours drawing these patterns that ended up not really being seen in the final product anyway. So why did I do this? Because I have passion. I had passion for this project, and this was the one that took all of that passion, shoved it down my throat, and then threw me out of a 10-story window. Because I didn't touch this project again for at least 6 months after this. Just because of how long it took. It looks great when you can actually see it, and this quality doesn't do it justice, but I would never willingly choose to do this again. You could pay me a lot of money, like $50, and I would do it again. But willingly, never again. This is honestly my longest time lapse as well. The app that I used for this was Procreate. It's like $10 on the App Store, but you have it forever. There's no subscriptions. You get all of their included brushes, and you can download their free like brush pack app as well. You can download a bunch of brushes for free offline. Just a really great app. It records everything and then stores all of those time lapses within itself. So whenever I had to go back to fish up some of these time lapses because I had lost them within my camera roll, I could easily do that because none of my time-lapse progress had been lost within the app, which is amazing, truly. I ended up not finishing the design on the other leg because I simply didn't have the patience. And I think there I wrote, I'm gonna kill myself. But instead of kill, I think I wrote off because I wanted to keep it PG. I was trying to figure out if I wanted to keep the long hair. I didn't, because the long hair is stupid. I ended up not giving him the earring, I don't think either. This Justice League Unlimited sort of design felt very pirate, which was strange. It was a strange decision that they had made. Here I am drawing a sash, which I chose green because his original pants and his original design are green, but I also chose green because it was going to be a good contrast. I probably could have gone with blue, but I wanted to tie back to his original design like one way or another. I ended up doing two completely separate designs for Aquaman. Like not a light mode and dark mode, but like two completely separate designs, which was an absolute mistake. But he's also the king of the sea, so I ended up going through and making all this, or drawing all this jewelry on him as well, which was fun. That part was kind of fun. I liked layering the necklaces. I put his Aquaman, or is it A for Aquaman or A for Atlantis? Do we know? I could look it up. I don't really want to. But then the Atlantean crystal from Disney's Atlantis, I ended up putting on Aquaman as well, just because, I could. Kept him barefoot for this human version of him, or the land version. Ended up drawing a crown, I guess. I do remember what happened in this crown. For this crown, I ended up drawing one gem for each, sea. So, the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic, and then the Red Sea, the Black Sea, the Dead Sea, the Indian Ocean, maybe. I don't know. It was kind of like how King Triton has one daughter to represent, all of the 7 seas. I had one gem in his crown to represent all of the 7 seas. So maybe Pacific and Atlantic don't count. Is it the Indian? No, it's the Indian Ocean. The 7 seas, is there an Arabian Sea? I don't know my seas, I'm not a sailor. But this is the second design I did, and I hate myself for it because I gave him little flippers, because I was like, I want to make an underwater version of Aquaman. And this time lapse right now for this design, for these 2 designs actually currently, 7 minutes long. 7 minutes of my life wasted on this man who I don't even really like as a character. But then I had to go through and I had to put scales on his pants. Every single scale. I am so dumb. And you guys had to sit through this too? I'd give you a timestamp to jump to, but honestly, I don't even know if this is ever gonna end. We're gonna die watching me put scales on a man who's green spandex. Oh my goodness. I ended up just copying, pasting the top from the original design. No, not the original design. My redesign onto this one, I think. I don't think I left him topless. Oh, I did completely redraw it. That's lovely. I did keep it plain, though. I didn't redraw all my little patterns. I was like, hey, I put little scales on the pants. That's what we're doing. That's it. But I did make the gem on the second design glow, so that's fun. I am so sick and tired of looking at him. This redesign is really quick, really simple. I believe this is Captain Atom, and the most I knew I wanted for him was Metal Man, glowing chest cavity, and that was about it. I didn't want to put clothes on him, didn't want to put the gloves, just wanted glowing man, Metal Man, glowing chest cavity. This is probably the shortest time lapse that we have. This was the shortest redesign by far, because it didn't take a lot of mental or physical effort at all. It was just figuring out how to make his chest look like it was glowing. So yeah, that was about that for that. Next is Supergirl, and like I said, Supergirl is very heavily inspired by Superman's redesign. Both are wearing full white suits, and both, instead of having capes, have these drapey red sleeves. I wanted hers to be a little different, so hers is probably as close to a cape as you're gonna get, but I wanted them both to sort of look like royalty. I wanted them both to sort of have the same, savior vibe. I actually really like this suit a lot. I would probably wear this suit. Out of any of them, I think I would wear this one. I just like how clean it looks. I like how, well, I don't know if I can say clean. How does one describe something looking clean? I like her boots a lot better. I wish I had gone with blue boots for Superman as well. And I'm glad that I didn't really add any black to her character. I could have put a black background on her, like symbol of hope, but I didn't, and I'm glad that I didn't. And I gave her a smaller head, because her head is actually really big. Now we have Red Tornado, who I also wasn't aware ended up or made an appearance in Justice League Unlimited, but I guess he does, because he was there when I looked it up. The arrow on his head, the arrow on his forehead is what really inspired me, and I really wanted to go more robot, so I didn't make him red. First of all, sorry. But also, I didn't really give him like the weird, like, sort of like underwear looking vibe that he has. But also, I got rid of the stupid Dracula cape. All of these people in their weird Dracula capes. I ended up using the arrow, which felt a lot like Avatar, so I ended up putting arrows, you know, on his forehead and then like down his arms, and to sort of represent like the Red Tornado, we just went with like a red T down his front, which I think it looks fine. I think he looks like a metal giant, which is really cool. So finally, our final character is Zatara. This is our final redesign, and I know the title of this video will probably say something along the lines of like, I designed every character from Justice League Unlimited. I lied. I'm lying. I'm not doing anymore, okay? Aquaman took it out of me with 2 designs, which I also did for Zatanna. I gave Zatanna 2 designs. One is a performance design, like for whenever she's performing, and then the second one is what I would consider sort of like her hero design. And you'll see with her hero design, she is very inspired by Enchantress from Suicide Squad. And you'll see. Just hold your horses, you'll see. I, again, gave her full coverage because absolutely what is the point of showing all this leg? You are gonna get nicked in an artery in the back of your leg and bleed out on the battlefield. I don't understand why we don't wear protection. Oh my goodness. Anyway. I ended up giving her sort of like these, I don't want to call them runes because I didn't do any research behind them. I just started making a bunch of like gold scribbles because I wanted her to look like she had come or knew like some sort of ancient magic, which is what like the gold runes are for. For her hero design, I ended up going with like a unitard design, which I know I preach against, but hold on, with tights, but then there's also sort of sheer skirt, because I wanted her to look sort of, I mean, it doesn't look whimsical, but I didn't want her to look like her performer self, so I ended up giving her these really, like, she almost looks blind in her eyes, but then I covered her, like, her face is painted with these runes, and her shirt is painted with these runes, and I made them glow. I figured out how to make them look like they were glowing, which is really fun. And I'm not really sure, like, if the runes each mean a different spell, or if another rune appears every time she, like, uses another spell, or enchantment, or magic, or whatever you want to call it, but I think they look really cool. Like I said, I didn't do any research, so if any of these actually mean anything, I didn't know it. I was just drawing and scribbling random stuff. I gave her the heels because she's not a hand-to-hand fighter. She just stands there and waves her hands and says some magic words, so the heels could stay. As a little bonus, you get to see how I created this sort of lineup for our characters. I kind of wanted to show them all side by side, like how they would be in, I don't know, like the sort of title theme song of Justice League Unlimited. but this is sort of how they ended up, all of them together. I think they all look really cohesive. I think they look like a unit, which is really good. And honestly, I'm really proud of them. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.